It seems so.
Okay, so that's great. That's my great pleasure to welcome my friend Johan to this meeting. I mean, probably you all know Johan. He's been a very active user and pioneering many things in the Lean community, but maybe you didn't notice he was also doing more and more, I mean, administration and organization for the community, and he went as far as just taking the lead of this Mathlib Initiative, new thing. So we are very, very grateful for this, and he will tell us all the wonderful thing that the Mathlib Initiative is doing and will be doing for us in the future.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the introduction, and yeah, it's an honor to kick off this next iteration of Lean Together. So I'm looking forward to a great week with many really great talks and having dinner behind my computer screen. So I want to tell you something about the Mathlib Initiative, which is one of the things that happened last year, came into existence, and I gave it the subtitle Scaling Infrastructure and Future Directions. And I think yeah, scaling and infrastructure are two key words for the Mathlib Initiative and how we want to support Mathlib and the community. So yeah, first of all, I want to show you the great team that has come together over the past few months. So there are these 12 excellent people who are working almost around the clock, because we're in so many different time zones, to bring you a better Mathlib. And yeah, so there are people who work full-time or almost full-time at the Mathlib Initiative. And then there are also people who are on the reviewer team who work 1 day a week, helping to battle the PR queue. But before I dive into the work we do, let me first tell you something about how it all started. So early in 2025, there were some signals that we could apply for a donation to set up some sort of thing. We didn't have very clear ideas yet about what it should look like, to get professional support for Mathlib and Mathlib development. And so then a small team consisting of Kim Morrison, Oliver Nash, Adam Topaz, and me started writing this funding proposal. And we took a lot of feedback from the Mathlib maintainer team, and also Leo provided great insight because, well, he had just set up an FRO together with Sebastian Ulrich and had lots of valuable input that we should consider. Well, then the result, we submitted this proposal, and after some time and feedback rounds and iterations, we received this private donation from Alex Gurko, the CEO of XTX Markets, and we're really grateful for that, which allowed us to set up a program under Renaissance Philanthropy. So the proposal was submitted as we were already working together with Renaissance Philanthropy. And so let me say a little bit about Renaissance Philanthropy and what they do and how the Mathlib Initiative is a program under that. So first of all, let me maybe remark that Renaissance Philanthropy has nothing to do with Renaissance Technology, which is the company that Jim Simons created. So Renaissance Philanthropy is a non-profit organization in the USA, and its main mission is to connect philanthropists who want to support science with scientists and engineers that have great ideas, but those ideas don't really fit inside a traditional academic lab or like national funding or even like a startup doesn't really work. And so Mathlib is one of those things. It's too big, way too big for one single academic lab, even national funding to some extent will support individual researchers, but it hasn't been very successful at giving sort of sustained support for infrastructure and technology engineering issues. And at the same time, the startup angle also clearly doesn't apply because, well, Mathlib is an open source library and it's a public good. We're absolutely not looking to monetize it. So in that sense, this mission that Renaissance Philanthropy has was a great fit for what we wanted. And as a program under Renaissance Philanthropy, they provide us with all sorts of support, sort of the whole side of running a business or an organization that is not the actual content core that you're working on, is things they help us with. So operational support, financial support, because I know very little about the financial side of running a business, but so now there are people giving me advice there, and I'm learning every day. They give us legal support because none of us are lawyers. They give us HR support, including the possibility to hire internationally, which is another thing that if you get a national grant is often extremely hard. And then communication support and all those sort of things. Yeah, so all that to summarize, we launched in September 2025, and here is our website, which you can go to find a lot more detailed information. But yeah, let me now go on to give an overview of the work we do. And before I do that, I should say we have a wonderful advisory board, and we're really proud and grateful that we have these people who every quarter take some time to give us advice and help us reflect on the past quarter. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next meeting in 2 weeks. Right. So the mission of the Mathlib Initiative. We want to focus on 4 things, and the first of those is that we want to make Mathlib grow as a comprehensive library in all directions. And then when I say Mathlib, I should immediately, and that's the second point, say we don't want to focus only on Mathlib. As Patrick mentioned in the introduction talk, there's an experiment / a trend to have Mathlib branded libraries that depend on Mathlib. So they're not part of the Mathlib base library, but we're starting to see an ecosystem, and we want to support that ecosystem with tooling so that we can have loads of topic-specific libraries that depend on Mathlib, depend on each other. So we're working towards that. The third point is that we realized there is loads of documentation that people have written, blog posts, wikis. Well, there are all sorts of module doc strings, library notes, etc., etc. But there was no really central overview. And so we wanted to organize that and also then discover the gaps and fill those up. And the fourth point is that we want to work on supporting AI integration. So both in the sense that getting training data out of Mathlib that people can train on, but then also sort of protocols maybe for contributing to Mathlib one way or another. And one thing I really want to stress is that the Mathlib Initiative is there to support the Mathlib community. So we operate within the existing Mathlib community structure. Some of the people at the Mathlib Initiative are Mathlib maintainers, but in the end, the Mathlib maintainers stay in charge of Mathlib, the library. So we work with the maintainers and reviewers and contributors to address these challenges. that we've identified. And at the same time, so one thing I should also say is this is an overview of what we promised to do. And as you've seen, we have an advisory board, and we have Renaissance Philanthropy, etc. We have our funders who gave us a mandate to work on this. But then this is also what we have to do, and we cannot just simply pivot and start working on something completely different. So this creates both. This sort of creates boundaries in which we operate. Good. So the first point is that we want to support the growth of Mathlib, and one of the main bottlenecks in the past years has simply been that many contributors create lovely PRs, and then they sit on this queue, and the contributors hope that someone will come along and review them. But yeah, PRs have been stalling on the queue for many days, weeks, months even. So we one way we want to tackle that is by just hiring people to review and to do more reviewing work and to speed up the reviewing work. And so we have this team of expert reviewers consisting of Dagur, Robin, John, Jaira, and Andrew, and we're looking to add 2 more people. And we're already seeing some signals that we're having impact. It's a bit too early to really confidently claim impact, but we're starting to see some signals, and we're really happy about that. Another effort in this direction is that Brian refactored the Q-board. And so the Q-board is a tool that, yeah, I think a bit more than a year ago, I started building a prototype, and then Michael Rothgang joined me and turned it into a much better prototype. And I think this has been quite successful in proving that this is really a tool that we need in the community. But it also grew out of its jacket, to use a Dutch idiom. So we were stretching the limits, and it was clear that at some point this would break down. So now Brian rewrote it from scratch. It's backed by a Postgres database instead of JSON files hosted on GitHub. It's now hosted on Heroku, and so it's now ready for the future. And one thing that the Q-board allows us to do is to get a much more detailed view on what's happening during review of a PR, more detailed than the API that GitHub provides. And it allows us to focus on review cycles, which we define to be the blocks of time when a PR is on the queue. So a review cycle starts when a PR enters the queue and stops when it leaves the queue again, and a PR might go through multiple review cycles. We'll say a little bit more about that in the next few slides. And then besides that, we've improved some tooling that's really helpful for review, including linters. So Thomas wrote the decidable in type linter, which checks whether a statement really needs to assume decidability, or it could use classical mathematics in the proof. We also have CI for checking that commits that were generated by a script are in fact generated by that script, and if that is true, you get a green check mark in CI, and it makes it much easier to just merge that without questioning whether maybe somehow accidentally something else slipped into the commit. About these review cycles, so we have this graph which shows how so this graph shows how long it takes for a PR on average to reach a state where it's merged or closed from when it's opened. The orange graph is about PRs the blue graph is about PRs that add new material to Mathlib and are labeled as a feature PR. And then the orange graph is all the other PRs. And what we see here is that sort of on average for the feature PRs, so the blue graph, it takes 4.8 days between opening a PR and closing/merging the PR. And then for the orange non-feature PRs, the median is actually 0.8 days. Sorry, I said average. I meant median. There's a big difference there because the horizontal axis is a log axis. And so yeah, so one thing we see here is that there's a clear shift between how long it takes for a feature PR versus a non-feature PR. At the same time, I want to point out that sort of this kind of data is something that we could get out of the GitHub API already, and you want to ask more fine-grained questions, like especially as Mathlib Initiative, we want to try to make review as responsive as possible. And so we want to measure these review cycles. And so now we can do that as well. So here's another graph, which was created just in the last few days, where we actually plot how long PRs are on the queue continuously. And so what we see is that some review cycles take more than 100 days. So this is quite extraordinary, and one of the things that we want to solve. On the other end of the spectrum, we see review cycles that take sort of 1,000th of a day, or maybe a bit more, or even a bit less. And so we still need to look into what's happening there. But one hypothesis is that a PR depends on some other PRs, then those dependencies get merged. And so a bot comes along and removes the blocked by other PR tag. And so now this bigger PR jumps on the queue, but because the dependencies were merged, it creates a merge conflict. And a few seconds later, the merge conflict bot shows up and labels it with a merge conflict. And so it jumps on the queue, and just a few seconds later, it's removed again. That's my hypothesis. There might be other things going on there. But I think what this is showing us is, for example, that many PRs get reviewed within 10 days after hopping on the queue. And well, almost half of them get reviewed within a day after hopping on the queue. And so I think that is encouraging, but it's also, there's a lot of data we want to look into to understand better, like how can we speed up the PRs that sit way too long on the queue. Okay. Let's move on to the second item, so ecosystem infrastructure. One thing that we're really excited about is that Marcelo Lynch joined us last week. And so Marcelo, in his previous job, gained a lot of experience building super large software systems like Microsoft Windows and things like that. And yeah, so we're really excited about the talent that he brings to our team. There's work on a library called Skimmer, which aims to provide library scale automation. And I don't want to say too much about that because Thomas is giving a talk about that on Wednesday, which I really strongly encourage you to attend. Some exciting things down in the pipeline there. Yale Dilly's created an upstreaming dashboard. And one of the things we want to do is move that over to the new Qboard backend and then add some features. One of which is to make it available by default in the Lean project template that Pietro Monticone created some time ago. And another thing is we're really grateful for Rob Lewis, who has been paying out of his own pocket for hosting Bourse, the merge bot, for many months. And now as a Mathlib initiative, we can take that over. So big thanks to Rob. The third point was about documentation. And as I said, we wanted to organize all the existing documentation out there that has been created by community members. And so Anna has created a huge YAML file that collects all this documentation and sort of organizes it, classifies it, labels it with topics. And so now if you go to the community website, you'll see that there is a documentation overview page. It's listed on the left-hand side in the menu. And you'll get this page with 4 quadrants where you can see, okay, if you want to take practical steps and you're studying, well, then you're looking for tutorials and you can find all the tutorials. Whereas if you're looking for reference material, which is more useful when you're working and it's more theoretical knowledge, then you're looking for things in the lower right quadrant. And then you can also expand these other areas and filter all the documentation by tags, etc. Another thing that Anna has been working on is tactic documentation. And so together with David from the Lean FRO, they've created a tactic documentation style guide and are now working on improving the existing tactics or the existing tactic documentation to adhere to this guide. And one particular effect is that all tactics in Mathlib now have a docstring. So this was a result that we can claim since a few days. I also want to give a shout out to 2 people at UCL, John Talbot and Richard Hill, because in parallel, there's a Renville grant for domain-specific documentation in Mathlib. And so, yeah, I think here we'll see that the total will be greater than the sum of its parts. So at the MI, we're currently focusing on tactic documentation. They're focusing on theory documentation. And as a whole, the documentation of Mathlib and its ecosystem improves. Finally, I want to say something about the 4th point, which is AI integration. So Adam Topaz has been working on a system called Lean Scout, which is a library that allows you to extract structured data from Lean projects. And one of the cool things is you can define your data extractors downstream of Lean Scout. So yeah, it comes with its own sort of plugin system, which makes it really flexible to use. And there's a small prototype of this in action. So all the types that occur in Mathlib, all the theorem statements, basically all the theorem statements are being extracted on a weekly basis and uploaded as a dataset to Hugging Face. And we have more extensive datasets in the pipeline. And one of the things that we want to work on next is to develop tooling for specifying and verifying PR requirements. And the idea here is to make it very precise what a solution to a certain problem could look like. And then a PR can claim to solve exactly that problem. And CI should be able to check that it solves that problem and nothing more. And well, so sort of proof wanted is already a small step in that direction, but we want a more versatile and more general approach to saying to specifying requirements, so that, for example, refactors can claim, okay, this PR is doing a refactor and it's doing precisely this refactor that is concisely specified in these PR requirements. And that will significantly aid in the review of such pull requests. Good. So that summarizes the 4 main points that we want to work on. So first of all, these improved responsiveness of the review queue, then the ecosystem infrastructure, the documentation, and AI integration. And that concludes my my summary of what's happening at the Mathlib Initiative and what our plans are for the future. And so I'd like to open the floor for questions.